That's right. All right, it is 6 o'clock. I will now call to order the April 22nd, 2019 meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. The meeting is being recorded. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Great. Being none, we will move on to our first public hearing. Notice of intent filed by the City of Easthampton, Mass DEP file number 151302 for the demolition of an existing pump house and the installation of a poured concrete cap and safety railing. Project location is Lower Millpond, an associated bank and bordering lands of flooding, map 136, lots 97, 98, and 99. Good evening.
How are you?
All right.
Yeah, good. So I'm here this evening, Rob Levesque from our Levesque Associates, representing the City of Easthampton. Excuse my informal attire. I was in the rain and fields earlier. We're requesting to be able to remove at least partially remove the existing pump house. This is an old pump house that connects to the mills. It used to draw water from the mills for fire suppression reasons. There's a couple water lines that go back towards the mills. I'm guessing one's an intake.
Looks like it was on fire recently.
Or collapsed roof.
No, it looks like it was on fire.
Like as of like again recently, or?
Well, I don't know. There was burnt wood. And
oh, that's been there's a line that we believe is an intake line and probably circulates back. I'm not sure the details of the system. We looked at it when we did the parking lot behind the mills. There's a series of water lines that are all for fire suppression. They're shown on the old sandboard mapping. So with that, there's basically a concrete slab with a brick building that sits on top of it. The brick building's roof has collapsed. A lot of the building is in, I'll call it more than disrepair. It's basically falling apart. Internal to the building is a little bit interesting, where there's old mechanicals for the pumps. A lot of the equipment has been removed, but a lot of it remains, so that will all be part of the demolition. Obviously, all the roof materials, asphalt, shingles, etc., is all going to be removed. There's work that was done by Green, I think, Environmental. They're in the mills over there. I believe that's who they contracted with for the asbestos, the hygienist, the review of the demo, for the removal of the building. So that work has been completed, and I believe that was provided in our notice of intent. I'm pretty sure. If not, I can get you a copy of that.
That would be helpful. Our agent's not here this evening, so we don't have a physical copy of it this evening.
There you go.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It might be in there.
Yeah.
It should be.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that.
No.
So essentially what we're trying to do is demolish the brick portion of the building from the slab up and everything associated with that. We know it's obviously on the bank of Lower Mill Pond. Part of it would be considered bank, I guess, if we're looking at it that way. We anticipate accessing the site from the lower, what's the name of that park there?
Lower Millpond Park.
That makes sense, right? Lower Millpond Park parking lot, which you can get in this way. We're anticipating fencing off an area and then having a very specific access point. We would, line that with silk fence chinked in. The upper portions of which maybe makes more sense to have construction fence, but we're showing silk fence around the perimeter, and we're wrapping it around. The way we colored it is a little bit funny, but we would wrap it around to the water's edge and wrap it back to the building so that if anything is disturbed, that if we get a rain event or anything, that it would be picked up. So we would do that here and here. In addition, we were looking at a flotation net of some sort to be deployed, prior to construction, so that when they demolish this, any of the materials don't go directly. We can avoid the materials going directly into the pond. There is a lot of debris already in the pond, as you've probably seen. There's a lot of trash in the pond as well. We, as part of our plan and part of the spec, we're going to have them pick, at least in the immediate area, pick up any trash within the limit of work. So that would probably include anything that they can grab without disturbing land and their water, as long as it's okay with the commission. Once the building is demolished and down, we would expect to leave a slab and pour a slab over the top of the existing slab so that it can be, while it's not a park area, at least it will be left capped as it is. There's a head wall kind of here that, where the pipe daylights, there's a head wall here. From that head wall out, this pipe will be removed as part of it as well. From this little abutment, we'll call it, or head wall, this pipe will be removed. There's some I-beams.
Is that the pipe you're pointing to?
Maybe.
There's two.
See what
There's
you got.
one.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So this pipe here is looking, yeah, that's great. Let me
Yeah, go
present
for
it
it.
to you guys. I can see it upside down. So I'm looking
That's right, you're looking
back
for water.
this way. Can I write on this? Is that okay? Pull that. So we're looking back that way at this.
That's
Mhm.
correct.
Does that make sense so far?
Mhm.
Okay. And then we're looking down the same pipe
Mhm.
from about here, roughly,
Mhm.
looking at the back side of the building.
Mhm.
Okay. So all of this will come out, I-beams will be popped out, that'll all be taken out, and we're gonna have them cut those at least 18 inches below grade, and if they're really deep, cut them and then backfill. The pipe itself, all that will be removed. I've been told that's not asbestos, which is, I guess, a good thing. But that insulation, everything associated with it, the roof materials, all that will be removed. So from approximately, and it's probably hard to see on this photo, but, oh, yeah, we go. So from the building, so from this slab down will remain. All this brick, everything else, all the building will be removed, all the materials within inside the building from that point.
So that's a solid slab?
It is.
There's no
There-
basement that needs, any voids that need to be filled?
That's a great question. There is. So it's a solid slab, and it's actually, you can't see it from the pictures, but inside there's a raised area, about a 6-inch raised area, maybe 8 by 10, that had some equipment on it. Everything else is at the same elevation, except for in the front portion of the building on the pond side over here,
Mhm.
there is fish. There's a fish tank. It's there's like I think it was an access port of some sort,
Mhm.
where there's obviously fish from the pond can get in here. So that there's an opening here, most likely from the intake.
Mhm.
So this area in here, the proposal would be to close the gap and then slurry fill this prior to pouring the slab.
Would that be done from the interior?
That would be done once demolished. So
Once the upper portions are
Yep,
demolished?
we'll demolish the upper portion.
So how are they going to close off the opening that allows water in
we were,
from the pond?
they were planning on plating it with a steel plate.
Okay, so they'll just,
To seem to clean, it's
Drill
like,
that.
almost like shoring. We could also, the spec has not come out yet, we could also look at doing vinyl pilings, which have been successful.
Okay.
But I think the plate would be the cleanest.
I'm just wondering if the plate would be installed from the interior or attached to the exterior?
I was anticipating it would be installed from the interior, but the exterior is an option as well. It wouldn't be aesthetically pleasing, but I think either might work. The thought process on the interior would be that they could drive it down like pilings and
Mhm.
then, and then backfill behind it.
I think that would be my
Yeah.
preference unless they're going to use some other BMP in the water, if they're going to be tromping out there to...
Right, no, we anticipate all the work will be done within the footprint, and then just hopefully anything that gets knocked in will be picked up in the protection device.
So could you point to is that darker hatched line, dashed line, is that the limit of bordering land subject to flooding?
This is here.
Yes.
That is correct.
So it comes up against the foundation of the building?
It does.
presumably,
It's
It kind
a-
of wraps around?
Yeah, it's an elevation of 132, what do we got there? 132.3? 132.3.
So, I guess what I'm saying is do you know where on the building that falls?
I actually don't have it marked, but I could mark it if that was helpful. I could have it, that elevation marked on the wall. I mean, I know it
Does this-
wraps.
Mhm.
But I could get you a finished floor, and I could give you a mark.
So we've got,
We're not planning
I
on
understand that there's
displacing
no
anything.
fill in floodplain. I'm
Correct.
just wondering if there's any created by default.
Oh, volume?
Mhm.
New volume?
Because of
I would
that.
argue no.
Okay.
The elevation this is below the slab grade.
Okay,
It's below the
Yeah,
concrete.
below that slab, yeah.
okay. So when I stopped by, I was wondering how this is going to be accessed, because that's a pretty steep slope.
It is, yeah.
And it's all, even though some of the vegetation is less than desirable, it's all vegetated.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about what's coming down?
Sure.
In order to, and how access will be stabilized?
I met with the city officials out on site and we looked at that. They do not have a contractor selected yet, so this is subject to change, but the thought process was that they would be able to limb a few of the mature trees in this area. And then there's some minor, the rest are saplings, so the thought process was not taking out any mature vegetation other than limbing them back. One of the contractors that they met with, who may or may not be awarded the bid, was planning to do the demolition with manpower, and then have a crane that would basically pull, we'll call it not a dumpster, but a bucket of some sort, and then that would be filled by hand. But that has not been dictated in the spec, so we're open to ideas if there's specific concerns, but the thought process was that there would be a machine that would be able to access this, that the typical large excavator, and that they would be able, and or crane, and that they would be able to access this side of the building. We don't anticipate any real, and maybe there's a crane with a bucket that they're lowering, filling, and then taking away, but we're not swinging a ball at this thing.
No
Like
one
the
does that
cartoons.
anymore.
Well, the cartoon,
So where do you anticipate that equipment would be staged if that's the way it were done?
It would be staged here, and it would likely crawl to the top of the slope, which is essentially here. And with the equipment that we're anticipating, we would anticipate that they would be able to drop something here, have it loaded, and then brought out.
So the equipment would stay off the slope, is what you're anticipating?
Yes, I don't think they can
Take
properly.
equipment down that?
Yeah,
No.
well, they might be able to take it down and get down here and work, but that's not the plan.
And then can you talk about the post-demolition site restoration stabilization?
Yep, so we would anticipate anything over a 3-to-1 slope. We're anticipating that there probably will be disturbance just from people even walking up and down it. So in the areas that need it, we would have, I think we may expect a North American green erosion control blanket. We can confirm that, but the idea would be that it would be re-raked, loamed, or I should say top dressed as needed, seeded, and then blanket applied accordingly. And then once it's established, a couple months later, depending on the growing season when we do it, which I think they want to do very quickly, we would remove silt fence, obviously. Alternative to silt fence would be like a log, erosion control log, which in this particular case may or may not be better or worse.
I think silt fence is better. Yeah.
Okay.
I just think if the slope were to fail, there's no height on the wattle.
No, I don't know. No, definitely not a wattle. The wattles I think are worthless. The larger logs.
Even the compass filter.
Yeah, those are better at least. They probably have a 12-inch reveal, but in this case, why mess around?
I'd rather have something that could just be removed entirely. I don't think it's appropriate that they would rip it open and leave it on site.
Right.
So, unless I'm missing it, I don't see
The North American green?
the restoration. So under mitigation, floating debris net /skirt. All exposed soils on site will be stabilized as soon as possible. Barrier control is not removed until 70% has been achieved over 90% of the area. Concom notified prior to. Project plans for erosion control barrier. So, I readily admit I'm
you know how that goes.
I'm just not seeing the, so there was a detail sheet.
Yeah.
Is that?
I thought you might have the full packet, but.
We might somewhere, but.
Okay, yeah, so there's a detail sheet. You should have our our slope protection detail that basically describes anything disturbed over 3 to 1, which is pretty much the whole slope. Now again, remember that there's a lot of mature vegetation in here, so you know, to cut up sections of blanket might not make sense. So we just want to make sure it's stabilized. So if there's the major areas that there's traffic would likely be blanketed.
Mm-hmm.
So how far down do you think the equipment's going to have to go?
This is pretty much the top of the slope, like right in here.
Do you think you could reach everything from that?
Yeah, that would be not too bad, depending on, you got a 60-foot arm,
Okay.
or on your, I'm thinking of a crane.
Right.
So you can look like this.
Mm-hmm.
You may need to crawl down a little bit more, but we can.
So, but you wouldn't be running up and down that steep slope trying to...
If we wanted to restrict it, I would like to, we're not really dictating the means and methods other than what is in the order of conditions. So if there's something specific you don't want to see like that, then we would just want to make sure that maybe we would talk to some of the contractors to make sure that they could in fact do what we're contemplating. But my understanding is that based on what they're talking about, they were going to lower a bucket, fill it with manpower, and then take it and haul it away.
Okay.
Do you know what they're planning to seed with?
No, we can do a restoration mix, whatever you feel is appropriate. I believe it might be in our, it probably is in one of our details. I think that's on the other sheet, I apologize.
Because I don't think there's much growing in there right now, because it's quite shady as I
it's pretty
recall in the
shady.
summer.
Yeah.
It's
There's
mostly
not much
leaf litter
small
and
leaf litter.
established trees.
Mm-hmm. Trash.
So I'm not sure what you'll get to stabilize it that will actually succeed.
Right.
Ground bench?
I think I found the detail sheet. That's not gonna work.
Well, but that does lead me to a question, which is invasive. I mean, the whole surrounding area has a problem with invasive species, and I know it's hard to control.
I don't think we have a lot in this area. So the pictures, I don't remember a lot of understory. I think most of what we have is mature stuff. Let me see if I can find a good spot. Yeah, it's really not a lot of understory at all. Yeah, she's right. Compared to that, some winter,
A
but
very steep.
yeah, exactly.
And Norway maples?
Looks like
And maybe
you
that's why we have nothing growing.
That could be.
You show shrub planting and tree planting details in the plan. Is that intentional?
It would be in the event that we need to do replanting, and then they're in there already. But we're not proposing anything specific. It might be a remnant too.
Matt, did you have both sheets there? Both of the, that you printed? Do you have the detail sheet? Is that the second one?
Yeah, it is.
So,
Can I take a peek? Thank you. So where's the berm proposed?
if they damage the berm, because there's a, I believe, the end of the parking lot has a berm, and I think we have a bituminous for, just in the event that they need to repair something that they mess up.
Would there be an anti-tracking apron as required?
In this particular case, if you required it, there would be. I
That
mean,
you'd really have any room for it to be effective.
well, you'd have to put it somewhere, not here.
Yeah.
I'm thinking it would,
It would
but
have to be on the
it would have to be,
asphalt.
prior to getting into the, and then, what are you gonna do? I mean, you'd be better off with something other than riprap to knock the dirt off the tire.
So you've got an area up here of construction fence.
Yep.
Will materials be removed from the site immediately, or are you going to be stockpiling in that fenced area?
I would assume that they would be taken, stockpiled, and then loaded and then removed. So I would assume that they would potentially be stockpiled temporarily. And when I say temporarily, I don't mean hours, probably up to days or weeks. But, you know, I would assume somebody would want to get in here and get this job done quickly. I'm like guessing it's a couple-week job from stem to stern.
How about the trees that are limbed?
We would identify those for the commission before. That would be
And they'll be
a
left?
recommended condition. Oh yeah, we would want,
Yeah.
the trees would be left. They would just be limbed back. And if there was any damage, we'd have the commission look at it. If there's any mitigation that needed to be done, we would do that. Or, you know, cut back any other branches that might have been affected. But it would be a recommended condition to have any trees to be limbed, marked ahead of time and reviewed by the commission. By the contractor.
Why is so much of the concrete being left?
That's a good question. A couple different reasons. I think they think it would be, although it's not a formal area, I think people would like to fish off of it. I think that was the thought process. They also didn't want to get into what I think they're trying to clean it up, get rid of the, how do I say it, the safety issue.
Nuisance.
Attractive
The nuisance,
nuisance.
attractive nuisance, because they have people going in there all the time, and it's really, I mean, if you walk in, you know, the roof is hanging down. I don't know if we have any pictures from the interior, but it's in really rough shape. Somebody could easily get hurt. Some kid hangs on it, falls on his friend, you know, that kind of thing. It's not good. It's really dangerous. So that's the goal, and I think probably cost is another concern if they start digging into that pad and, you know, the associated piping and connections. I think it's going to be messy. So they're just going to fill the void, pour a slab, and and a railing.
Yeah,
for
and I
safety.
think on the upside, it prevents materials from further falling into the water.
So you need to block off these two
Yeah,
large
these
pipes.
will be cut back and capped, both of those. These abutments, however, are planned to remain. We don't want to disturb any more of the ground plane than needed. They just want to get this safe, get this stuff out of there. And then, so this one, this, and this will remain. This is actually concrete. These are the I-beams that you saw in the picture.
And those will be removed.
That's correct, yep. And then the barbed wire will come down, and the whole deal, you'll actually be able to get there.
And what would be the intended access path then if people are going to use this informally?
I would be informal, because if we make it formal, we have to meet 521 CMR, and we're dealing with an erector set looking ramp down. You know, if people end up using it, they use it. This is
There's already
this is
a
for
path.
demo. This is for demo. I mean, there's many, spots around the outlet control over here. People fish off of through the bottles and cans that float to the outlet control, which is also something that the commission might want to look at, just because that area should definitely be cleaned. I don't know if you've seen it, it's pretty bad. At the outlet control, there's probably a 7,000 square foot area filled with bottles, like plastic bottles. Yeah.
Did everyone get a chance to swing by and take a look at it? More or less?
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Do you want to receive additional information or discuss potential conditions?
There's one last thing I would just point out, so okay with the commission. In our spec, we plan to, whatever they put together for, call it a shop drawing, or whatever they give us for what they plan on doing here, needs to be submitted to the commission for approval. So I think that's important to know what they're going to do and how they plan on working. And a condition for them to come in ahead of time and make sure that everybody's on the same page obviously makes sense. I know you have a pre-construction meeting requirement anyway, but in this particular case, depending on who's selected, that can be a key component.
Well, and that's, I guess, as long as that's floating and not anchored to land underwater, then that's a non-issue at this point. But if they were to talk about anchoring it in such a way that it became an impact, that would be challenging.
My guess is that bottom is pretty mucky. So if they did anchor anything, I don't think they could necessarily anchor anything. If anything, they'd have to do some sort of pads on the feet of the, you know, so it didn't sink into the ground.
What did you say? Was it going to be a netting to prevent debris falling in?
Well, you know, depending on exact or equal, I mean, we have a, forget what we call it, floating net, alternate protection to be deployed and inspected by the Concom prior to construction. So we figured it makes sense to let the contractor figure out what's best with approval by the Conservation Commission, because, you know, I don't have scuba divers out there trying to install something that's overkill, but at the same time, we want to make sure we have protection.
And you're envisioning it'll be something that spans this area so that whatever falls on it can be picked back up?
Exactly.
Okay.
Do we care about like the mortar or dust or?
If that is, in what way?
The bricks, demolishing the brick structure.
That it would adversely, that it would have asbestos in it, or that it would adversely affect?
Or just
Well-
land in the pond.
Yeah.
water?
I might be able to tell
Is
you.
there there's usually a dust control requirement?
There is with the demo
Demolition in
permit.
general? And I think that might, not sure how else they would do it, but.
Yeah, just something I thought about when I was staring at it, saw brick.
Excuse me.
So there were asbestos containing materials identified. It'll be removed prior to demolition. And then tested, I guess, or, you know, reviewed again. So anything other than, not to say that there wouldn't be dust, but, you know,
Okay.
at least, I guess there's nothing else.
What was the age of the structure? Do we know?
Guessing it's early 1900s.
Probably when the mills were
I'm thinking,
in action.
I'm guessing like right at the turn of the century. I could get you that answer. Be glad, because I have a bunch of old,
Sand
yeah, cool stuff. You probably have some cool stuff too.
But this is now entirely on land owned by the city, and it's the city structure.
And the parcels next to it, the city too?
That is correct.
And that section of the pond is the city.
It is that Mike Michon through, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say Mike Michon, the owner of Ferry Street, I don't know who that is yet, or, you know, I don't know if that property's transferred, but One Ferry Street, they own a portion of.
Portion, but not this
But not
area.
this area.
So some things that I've jotted down that are concerns of the commission as potential special conditions would be to protect and preserve trees, and that trees to be limbed be identified in the field for commission review and further protection, and that we require tree protection detail. That the selected contractor, as part of pre-construction submittals to the commission, would be required to provide construction sequence / demo plan, including details, means and methods, and especially dust control, slope restoration detail, including any proposed seed mixes, other protective measures, specifying that there is no equipment allowed in the water. Where's the bank line as it was identified in the field? Is it where the green meets the blue?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Seems so.
I can't apply logic to anything. Just because it makes sense to me doesn't mean it's actually logical. All right.
Well, sometimes
so,
we don't call it right either. I've seen that a couple times.
So, no equipment in the water, and that's what I've noted thus far.
And you have that, I think you mentioned this, right? The
Floating
floating
net.
net. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, well, and I guess if it's part of the plan, then, but detail for installation.
You know, maybe they provide a
Review
shop
that.
drawing of some sort.
Mhm.
Or review it in the pre-construction
Mhm.
meeting.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like at least more than a few of the things that we would want to see before work commences are all contingent upon the means and methods of the contractor. And until the contractor's been selected, it's not feasible to provide that information.
The new slab on top is gonna be poured.
Correct, that is the approach to be taken.
How do we keep overflow from going into the water when they're doing that?
They'll form it, they'll have to be very careful. They'll be formed up most likely with, you know, 2x8s or something like that, you know, and it'll be, well, if you'd like, you know what, that wouldn't be a bad shot drawing to see. Actually,
I mean,
for
I'm
both of
watching
us.
this process in my
Yeah.
backyard right now, and there's quite a bit of spillover.
Yeah.
So we wanna make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm also saying, minimum 48-hour notice prior to, commencement of concrete pouring.
Mhm.
And having been a guy who poured about, I don't know how many hundreds of concrete floors in high school, I would recommend, you know, they can hoe it. They don't have to shoot it out here either. And what they'll have a two, you know,
They can just spread
So
it.
manually
Yeah.
distribute.
they can,
Yeah.
manually distribute adjacent to pond versus machine, you know, shooting it out and having it splatter everywhere.
Mhm.
But they tend to not be very accurate and worry about those little details, so.
Well, I know, yeah. But we can try.
Yeah, see.
We can be there when they pour.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Actually.
Sure.
Is that better or worse than watching paint dry?
It's actually a lot
It
more
wouldn't take
fun.
that
It's a lot
long.
more fun.
It wouldn't take that long to
Manually
do this.
distribute concrete. Okay. So, I guess in addition to.
How will they get the concrete down there? Will they be able to run a chute the whole
They
way?
have machines that have a chute.
Okay.
Yeah. Or they'll run,
Pump truck.
depending on the contractor, maybe they'll run 14 chutes to get out. But yeah, they have a machine that'll crane in.
They could pump it in.
Yeah.
Which is expensive, but.
MA spill concrete, any concrete spilled on
be
the.
removed.
Outside the porch slab.
Any rinsing of the concrete truck should be done away from the resource area and
We
legally
usually require it's
disposed
out of the
Yeah.
100-foot buffer zone. That's one of the, I think that is boilerplate, actually.
We got that boat ramp, they can just back it down.
Got any potholes in it?
Okay.
And nothing's being added to these abutments that are being left behind.
That's correct. These will be just
As
remain
is.
as is.
Existing capped in place.
Other than the capping of the pipes.
Okay.
They will be capping anything internal as well. You know, anything that, any risers or anything else will be capped, obviously.
Because there's all these pump parts that you don't know what's on.
Right, exactly. We know what we can see.
Right,
Mhm.
but as soon as you take them out.
Yep.
And is the foundation that's going to remain, is that structurally sound? I mean, some of these cracks and things, are those a concern for it
It has not
collapsing
been,
later?
it has not been investigated. That was not part of our scope. My guess is, based on other mill buildings that we've dealt with, the footings, usually these things are pretty substantial.
Right, some of the brickwork looks like it's more compromised than the concrete
Mhm.
is, so. But you won't see some of these things until you remove some of the equipment and debris that's just piled in there right now.
Yeah, right now, it's just, everything is based on just capping it for safety purposes.
Mhm.
And, you know, getting it cleaned up, capping it.
just for curiosity, what do they do with the bricks when they demolish it? They try to preserve it, or just crush it all?
If they're valuable and they're
People
marketed.
buy reclaimed bricks, but usually you can just take these bricks out by hand. It almost looks like the building was done in two different stages, an older and a newer section.
Is there any reuse of demolition materials to fill a void? Or is there...
That's a good question. They oftentimes will like to do that. They'll try to crush it to fill a void. We should specify whether or not we want to restrict that. I think on our spec, we were planning on having them put flowable fill in there. I think that makes more sense. Maybe we just dictate that right in there with OC.
Is there a lot of metal in that building? It seemed like there was a
Big
ton
pumps,
of...
big pumps and all
Yeah.
this kind of hardware.
What happens to that?
You have to crane it out.
Scrap.
Scrap metal.
There's like a diesel pump in there, there's fuel. There was something in the back on it.
How'd you get in there?
I did.
We can see that.
You can see it, it was from that, through that window, you can
Is
see
that too
that.
tall?
Yeah.
More modern stuff than I would have guessed.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of tonnage.
Can you hold on? His arms are
I'll throw
long,
it.
my arms. Sorry, Tim.
I didn't see any fuel storage, but I didn't go in there looking.
There was a shed out back that has like a cradle, two
For a
concrete.
tank, yeah.
Yeah, for a tank there. That's not there anymore. There was another slab, that raised slab over here.
Don't know what that
I don't know if you saw that. through the
That's
window.
Construction projects.
I think it was probably, it looked like it might have been propane. Is that possible?
I don't know, but that's-
Because in the, I don't know if you have a picture of the back.
I'm just trying to think of that old, that's the fenced area.
So that aside, because that's,
Yeah.
Very
Not-
interesting.
You don't want to be here all night?
so,
Yeah, so there's your tank.
Yeah, right.
so, does the commission feel comfortable with the conditions we've discussed and
Yes.
making a motion? Standard with conditions as discussed?
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions with the special conditions we discussed.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Did we send everything to the, or is there should we circulate things differently? Or you guys are-
Well, so this did get distributed electronically.
Oh, okay, good.
We're caught a little off guard tonight.
Okay,
so.
yep, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, next item on the agenda, public hearing, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed by Beacon Solar LLC, Mass DEP file number 151300. Applicant is seeking confirmation of various wetland boundaries at 50 Florence Road, map 115, lots 2 and 5, continued from January 13th, 2019. Welcome back. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. If you'd like to pull another chair up, you're welcome to. If you would just both be so kind as to introduce yourselves for the record. First you were with TRCC.
And Dan Ritchie, GZA, working on behalf of the Conservation Commission.
And for the record, the commission received GZA's summary review dated April 18th, 2019, but it does not appear to have been circulated amongst commission members. It came through after 5 o'clock on Thursday, just after 5.
Yeah.
So please be gracious and assume that none of us have looked at this. And you have an extra, if you
Yeah,
could
I
share
know.
it with that end of the
There's an
table,
extra copy
or the
there.
middle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much. I only have the one copy here. So, walk us through it, please.
Do you want to walk through, have them start? Or have you guys presented on your whole plan yet, or do you want to just do the review?
So we just went to the hearing to introduce it and basically agree to have a peer review done, and we were told that you wanted to hear about the review summary before we went and made any of these changes, so we haven't really done anything.
Okay,
So it's
fine.
kind of all you.
Good,
So-
so it's a good lead in for now. So it's peer review. So Dan Mitchell from GZA, there was about 3 of us out there, over 3 days, not 3 full days, spent out there covering them. You can see the size of the property, it's fairly massive. A lot of wetlands out there, from streams. There's 17 different BBWs. There's about 12 streams out there. So a wide variety of different resources. In general, they did a really good job. I mean, any site this large, there's going to be some discrepancies a few feet here or there. We found most of it was pretty right on, but there are areas, and on the sheet, was it page 3, there's a narrative part, and then we have a table to try to make it a little easier to get at all of the changes. If you look down through the change section, we're looking at minimum of a 6-foot move, but some places they're up to 20 feet. One is 60 to 80 feet up gradient of, it's a sort of a finger between the contours of a roll, because it's sort of a rolling landscape out there. And at the time we were there, it was saturated, but we're there slightly earlier than the growing season starting, so we really were basing our answer on the hydric soil characteristics, not necessarily the presence of water in some places. Although just north of one wetland, I forget which number we had it as, there was a wetland 9, right? Well, there's 2 wetland 9s, by the way. There's wetland 9 up here in the northwest corner, and then there's wetland 9 on the southwest corner. And I'm assuming that they assumed it was all connected, which is why they had the same numbering system.
Off of the same perennial stream.
Yeah, the only issue is that the numbers were repeated, so, yeah. So we clarified that what was right. I mean, I identified on the table, it was what sheet number wetland 9 for up here, and what sheet number wetland 9 changes down here. Because there's some of these, because of the way the maps were broken up, like the wetland in the northwest corner, wetland 9, there's 4 sheets that have a piece of that wetland on each sheet. So we sort of try to help reference those particular sheets. But there is enough, I think, changes in the wetlands. This was sort of a question that I had discussed with Mallory, and coming through the commission. If they were large enough moves, you guys would want to take a look at that. A few foot moves, probably not a big deal. But we have a lot of them here that are over the 20-foot mark. So you probably should come out and take a look at some of those just to be comfortable with our interpretation. This site has been massively manipulated over time. We found places where there was hydric, quote-unquote hydric soil, but there was upland soil underneath it. So it's probably unsuitable material, was probably brought onto an upland environment and spread out. So you have to be kind of careful delineating this wetland, because we had to keep punching through what looked to be wetland to make sure that was indeed continuous modeling or redox features to really provide the evidence of hydrology. There were just a couple places where it wasn't continuous. So you'd have a wetland soil dumped on top of an old upland, but that still looks like a wetland, and you go underneath it and there's an upland there. So those are some features that we looked at. That was kind of rare. There's only a couple spots where we said, this is not really a wetland, even though it looks like hydric soil on top.
What about the reverse situation? Did you see that at all?
No.
Okay.
No. And these fields, because they're routinely mown, the vegetation doesn't tell us the whole story, as you folks are very well aware of. So we were looking for your soft rushes and some juncus that was probably growing in those wet areas that we're identifying here to grow, to make this wetland get larger. And on page 9 of the plan sheet, we found a wetland, so just north of W6, one of the W6s.
One of the W6s? I thought there were only 2 W.
There's 2 W9s. The W6 is a continuous, it's a fairly large system here. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a W8 here and a W8 here. Am I looking at that correctly? Okay.
So within that W8 system, though, we have flags 18 and 19. Let's
Is
see.
that W8 sheet 15 or W8
No,
sheet
that's a good
14 or
question.
W8 sheet
We didn't
22?
differentiate which one. We have flag numbers that we saw in
And
the
are
system.
on large sites
Let me take a look at this.
and with different people in it. If that was the case.
You speak from experience.
No.
Yeah. There was clearly different methodologies. Not grossly different, but you could see the difference in style, yeah.
Okay, so where?
It's possible on the W8, we'd have to look at their blow-up map to see the numbers, but we're identifying specific numbers
Yeah.
where changes should happen, where we're recommending changes should happen.
I'm gonna assume 15. Where do I see 11? Is that what I want?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so it's all figure 1 and it's broken up by pages. Got it.
16.
I think I wanted 15? Yep.
Oh, I wasn't sure if the cover page was
Gotcha.
page 1.
Gotcha. Okay, so.
So our recommendation is remove flags 18 and 19 and just connect straight from 17 to 20.
I see, so you're saying that this area in here,
In our opinion's wet.
in your
Just connect
opinion's
it.
what? And that was based on,
Most like, that particular one I didn't look at, but the other folks told me it was the vegetation and hydrology, evidence of
Okay.
hydrology. Yeah.
okay. So,
And then it also says, so that's 18, and there's an expansion of 80 feet north between flags 50 and 52. So that may be on the other sections, the numbers are rising, either on a different sheet.
let's hope that was 14?
Yeah.
Okay, that.
That was fine, by the way, yeah.
Okay.
No, so it's probably on the other W, let's try the
There.
other W8 system.
Okay,
So
22.
So boundary expansion 80 feet plus or minus northeast between 50 and 52. So between there and there.
You're
keep on-
saying it goes
It-
much further?
Right, but this particular one goes up and curves. It may actually be more than 100 feet.
Okay,
But it's like a long, narrow, it's where the two topographies sort of come to a shoulder, basically, or drainway, natural drainway. And we had at least 60 feet up, I still had a clear hydric soil and hydric
Okay.
vegetation.
So,
So that's
Okay.
certainly one that for commission to take a good look at because of the size of that expansion. It's not very big, it's a continuation of that sort
It's
of
just a-
narrowness.
a long
It's just
finger-like
longer
section.
finger, right.
in the middle of an agricultural field.
Can you just point that out in the bigger map, the overall?
it's this wetland over here, so basically is coming this way, if I understand
Mhm.
correctly.
And Florence Road is at the,
Okay.
East side,
So-
right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
you're
this is
looking
Lathrop?
almost due south
Yep.
your viewpoint.
Yep.
And what was that other spot before that connected the two?
It's this little piece in here, so it connects from this flag.
So the
to this
boundary
flag.
curves in, or it was curved in, and
Yeah,
GCA
it
is
was
saying
like
that
this.
it's more of a straight
They were
line
saying
and that
up-
area should be included.
Right, upland, wet, and we said, just cross that, this is all wet.
Thank you.
So this was all done,
April 3rd, 4th, and 12th with our days in the field.
okay.
No excessive rain events or anything during that time period that would have sort of altered our view.
So it was right before it started raining?
Yeah, yeah. We had one wetland that was not flagged, because we, not only are the wetlands flagged, that are flagged accurate, did they miss something? So we go through the areas that are not flagged, and we only found one, page 9, what we're identifying as page 9,
So-
probably a sheet 9. An open water area approximately 30 feet in diameter, north of wetlands 6, and specifically north of the flags 35 through 37. It appeared to be isolated at the time. We were certainly at a high water time of year, so we didn't really, we didn't see a surface hydraulic connection. But there was a lot of fairly large bullfrog tadpoles in there, so this has to be wet for a fairly
But
long period of the year.
North wetland 6?
Yeah, it keeps on going.
Okay,
right.
so 15.
So predominantly north of, what do we say there, flags 35 and 37. I think we're probably still on another sheet.
Well,
Okay, so
we
we're
will-
W6.
Here's W6, 35 and 37. Does it arc around?
Did you, were you already on 9?
We were on
We
9.
started on Oh, yeah, there's
Oh,
37.
I'm sorry. So
it's like in the middle.
contained within that forested area?
Yeah.
So this is.
We
you
think that, we
agree
think that
with-
dark area is actually, right here is the water body.
Okay, so, but you're
Yeah.
saying you agree with this?
Right,
But within that, there's another resource area boundary that needs to be captured?
correct.
Okay.
And it may only be isolated vegetated wetland. I
Mhm.
don't know, they'd have to run the calcs to figure out whether land is isolated
Okay.
land subject to flooding.
Mhm.
It doesn't come up as a potential or a certified vernal pool. There was no fish in it at the time we were there, and there's large bullfrogs. So I'm assuming that water's there for a fairly long period of time.
Okay, so question as I'm looking at this, does stream S13 connect with wetland W10? Is it flowing, there are no contours here, so
I think it's
Is it-
flowing that.
it's flowing into it, so.
Yeah, the
I
land
guess-
typically pitches from west to east for the most part. and
Which is interesting because
south.
Bassett Brook is,
Lower down.
yeah. So I guess how.
We didn't see a connection there. Yeah, we didn't find the connection, but I mean, I
Was-
didn't look at this one myself.
Were the streams flagged in the field?
Yes.
So are there flag points that could be referenced along this line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we did notice your flags, like you guys normally do. You write down what the width of the stream was on the flag that they GPS, so they can later on sort of connect the points to make the actual width of the stream.
So S13 flows from W9, but doesn't quite make it to W10, which would make W10, what are these symbols? Is that where data plots were collected? And is W10 being called isolated? Or is it being called bordering?
It looks like we have it as bordering because it
Right,
has
there's a buffer.
zone.
Okay. So I guess my question there is,
Yeah, we didn't know the
on what does it
connection
border?
there. Yeah.
If
That is an excellent
if
question.
the stream doesn't, all things being equal,
Mhm.
if the stream doesn't connect, and it's not bordering, and there's not another stream or pond, what is it bordering on?
It's possible that there was a note in the points that were connected that it's supposed to connect to a certain flag and then it just got left off.
Okay, can you follow up on that? That would be helpful.
So that was
S13 from W9
to W10.
What are these little fields? The little white.
I couldn't never figure out what those were. It's not everywhere. It's just
Right.
randomly. Yeah.
Okay.
I think they might be leftover leads to a number, but
Oh, okay. Very good. So, so just before we go any further and talk about field revisions, where are the I'm gonna go back to the big picture, maybe.
the perennial stream is S10.
Okay,
Which is way off there, so it travels here and pops back on site and then leaves.
So is this riverfront?
The blue, yes.
Okay, so how was, oh, I don't wanna make you lose your stuff
Oh, that's okay. That's
Okay.
actually stuff at the 15.
there. Oh,
It's
okay.
extra cards that came in after the
Oh,
fact.
okay, well, I'm gonna ask you to hold on to those
I
because
thought you might
we
want me to
don't
wait for
have the
Natalie.
agent's file here. So, I guess I'm curious, can we talk about that perennial stream and how it was, is it shown as perennial on the USGS map?
I believe so.
Okay. Is
But
there
it
a
has a
USGS in here?
very well-defined bank. Yeah,
Okay.
it's right there running along.
Is it Bassett Brook? Or is it, I guess if you could just verify if that's Bassett Brook or not. that would
There's
be.
a good sized stream. I mean,
Yeah,
that
it's
doesn't
a
always mean
good
the answer,
sized
but
stream.
yeah.
Right, yeah, no, I believe it's just, I mean, Bassett Brook does flow along that western boundary. It doesn't look like any of the other streams are technically shown on the USGS topo map. But that in and of itself isn't necessarily all there is to say.
The final answer, right?
Right, okay. So, has TRC had a chance to review?
We
GCA's
reviewed the letter, but we haven't gone in the field yet.
Okay,
because
so that's
originally
the
we
ne-
weren't sure,
right.
like, if you wanted to come with us in GCA, or if we could just go out with GCA, and we're kind of waiting
So,
to make that decision.
so GZA, in the areas where you, Dan, in the areas where you identified significant variations, where you would establish the boundary versus where it's shown on the drawings. You know, you've summarized hydric soil, et cetera.
Mhm.
Does anyone from the commission feel that they want to be out there when it's discussed in the field? Or do we want to leave it in the hands of others to revise or rebut?
I trust them to be able to work it out. It'd be nice to have
Yeah.
somebody there if we could make it happen, but I don't
I
feel
mean,
like
it
we
would be
need to.
nice if we could have Mallory be there.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause I
Which
can't-
means,
I can't have opinions, so.
right,
Yeah.
and I can't be available in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Julie probably can't be either. and-
Maybe after June 30th.
You're funny. Okay, so I guess I would like to suggest that the two of you coordinate with Mallory and find a time, hopefully prior to our next meeting. I don't know what your schedules are like. I'm sure
2 weeks
May
tonight?
6th is the.
May 6th is our next meeting. So I guess it's either find a time that works,
Mm-hmm.
or
Continue to the next.
or come up, yeah, and if,
We should have it sorted out by the next meeting, you know?
it would be nice.
Yeah.
So if, I guess what I'm saying is if Mallory is not available to join you, don't let that hold you up from being able to get together on site and resolve
Okay.
those issues.
So we should basically keep Mallory.
Keep her in the
In
loop,
the loop,
let her know
and
that the
invite her
commission
to
would
come.
like her to be there if she's available, but the commission has a stronger preference that the boundaries be resolved and updated mapping, et cetera, be provided prior to the May 6th meeting.
Okay.
Good team? Yes.
Okay.
So with that, any further discussion?
We've got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I
yes,
just-
Deborah?
You
Sorry.
were talking about the both ads.
Yeah.
So we're Grove Land, right up against, I guess that's at 64, which then it continues to at 2. We can hear at night, especially after it rains, frogs, both frogs, we can hear it coming from. So I just from my part, I can confirm that, you could just hear it all the way back.
Yeah.
So I don't know how far into lot 2,
So-
but we can hear everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the distance is on lot 2, but.
Well, and Groveland is like down here.
Right.
So there's a fair,
Whatever that is
Yeah.
from the back of us, from 64 back, because we're right up against
Okay.
the property, we can hear all of it.
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah, there are other open water areas down there. The part we're talking about is actually in the northeastern corner of this whole facility. So you're probably not hearing them, but you are probably
Yeah,
hearing
I don't know how
them.
far it travels, but.
Oh, at night it would travel
you
pretty
can
far,
just-
but
You
yeah.
can just hear it from the back of our house,
Yeah.
because we're right up against it,
Okay.
all the way back.
Yeah, it's a pretty damp area.
Yeah.
Well, I think-
My whole backyard is a mud bed,
Oh, is it?
going all the way back, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so barring any further discussion, is there a motion to continue?
Motion to continue to May 6th at 6 PM.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, thank you. Good
Great,
luck.
thank you.
Do you want to use this, Dan?
Full cycle of timing.
That would be great. Alternatively, if you want to just give them an email them to her. Yeah. Or just bring them the next time and we'll see where we are. Thank you. Okay.
Dan, do you have a couple minutes?
Moving on to requests for certificates of compliance. Request for certificate of compliance, Riverside Industries, Mass. DEP file number 151290, 1 Potter Street Bridge replacement across Broad Brook. Expires 3/27/21, continued from March 11th, 2019. At our last meeting, the commission had conducted a site visit just prior to the meeting,
Really? It was on there?
April 8th. Yes,
Yeah,
April
that's right.
8th.
That's right.
Yes, it feels like a long time.
I thought it was since the last meeting, but never mind.
You were there.
I know it was.
Doesn't necessarily mean anything.
No, especially
Okay.
not these days.
So, when last we visited this topic, the commission was going to review the NOI file for photographs of pre-construction conditions. I haven't done that.
Mm-mm.
I had assumed that by the commission,
We don't know, right?
yes,
Mallory.
and,
I feel like I did. I think I looked at it in Google Earth a little bit, going back in
It
time.
wasn't
and-
conclusive.
Yeah, I mean, it looked pretty similar to how it had been.
so, do we,
Want to wait for Mallory to have a shot at it?
I'd say we at least
Discussing.
just continue this to May 6th and wrap it up then if reasonable.
When does she come back? No.
I thought she was gonna be back tonight.
Motion to continue to May 6th?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, next item, request for partial certificate from J.E. and C.C. Keelik, Mass. DEP file number 151168, for work approved under the order at 24 Holly Circle subdivision lot 22, continued from March 25th, 2019. This item, I think we can actually remove from the agenda without any action. There is no open order associated with this lot. Thank you. So there's no action for the commission to take at this time. Again, this was something that the agent was going to, I think, wait until tonight to see if there was any follow-up correspondence from the attorney or attorneys, and barring none, we could strike it from the agenda. So I think that's where we are now. I'll just remove this item
Okay.
without further discussion. Done.
They officially moved today?
There's a moving truck. Do you
You know,
take
Holly.
video of all your neighbors leaving?
Holly's one way, so there's a big tractor trailer trying to reverse all the way back, so yeah, it caught my
Must have been
attention.
interesting. Hopefully they proceeded without issue. All right, we have no emergency certifications on the agenda. Enforcement actions, I have a feeling this is going to be rather quick, although we do have an update. So, A and B, Bernard Gall, 37 South Street, and vicinity Groveland, Florence Road, no updates.
I dug up a few things from emails for 37 to show Mallory, to see if, because she was looking for information, so
Yeah.
I'll
Did
wait till I
you
see
pull-
her.
okay.
I didn't forward because I printed some copies. I was going to
Okay.
go over the file with her and see if,
That's very helpful, thank you.
and the same for C.
Same for C, which is, okay, out on properties, so
Yeah.
you have some old emails
Yeah.
that you can share with
Yeah.
her. Okay, D, Cernak, Westview Terrace, map 165, lot 47. Good evening.
Hello.
Oh, thank you for bringing that back up.
So we were at the meeting 2 weeks
Mhm.
ago, and it's pretty much status quo. I did contact Mallory and left a message, but I haven't heard back, so
Do you
I
know
just...
when you phoned?
I did on Thursday at noontime, and left a message because we had talked about she would reach out and let me know how she wanted us to proceed. So at this last point, the transplants we did, the majority of them, the pines, they're comparable to what we have in our woods. Like the new needles are a little brown, but they're not. We have 2 that are really brown that I think will probably not survive. But we did plant 11 extra to give us a little buffer of numbers. So we're just really watching the survival rate at
How
this
are the
point.
water levels from the culvert? Is that
The South Street culvert?
Yeah, is that backing up and affecting the restoration
beavers?
areas? Yeah.
Not well. That area, Mike Callahan came and cleaned out the South Street culvert, so that's pretty low, the
Okay.
water. The second tier, we're keeping
Beaver
a
Dam.
watch on that, yeah.
Okay. All right, just
But
curious.
at this point, it hasn't
Affected
migrated
upgraded?
to, right,
Okay,
yeah.
excellent.
So,
All right, well, we have noted that you left a message for Mallory on Thursday at noon, Thursday the 18th.
Yes.
Thank you. And we'll just keep,
I'll just pursue.
yeah, if you think that would be.
Okay, we just
great.
didn't want to
Thank you.
have it appear that we were
No.
doing the right steps here, so.
Nope, I appreciate your following up. Thank you.
Okay. Great,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I think, based on our discussion regarding St. Bridget's Cemetery, Our Lady of the Valley Parish, Efford Street, map 145, lot 37, they attended our last meeting. They nominated and we approved the nomination of Nikki Marcus of SWCA as their environmental professional. And we also told them that they need not attend tonight's hearing because of the discussions that took place at our last meeting. So, no, as far as I'm aware, I don't believe there are any updates regarding that item.
That hasn't, we anticipated ratifying that tonight, if we had it.
I thought we ratified
Or
it
did
at
we
the last
ratify?
meeting. Did we sign it?
Just deleted, but we did last time.
What did we do?
Motion, yeah, motion to ratify the enforcement.
Yeah, we
Okay,
did.
we did, okay.
You motioned.
You motioned it, yeah, exactly.
Again, as you said, things doesn't necessarily. Okay, moving on to open space updates. Has anyone heard anything about Echodale West Orchard area improvements?
No.
No.
We had some representatives from Lathrop here, but they are not here now.
They're probably here for the other
Oh,
section,
could be,
because
could
they're
be.
maybe the butters.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Mallory did send around the pertinent section of the zoning ordinance that talked about how land is supposed to be, you know, how it's supposed to be quantified and set aside for open space conservation. But barring the presence of anyone else to have that conversation, I think that now steps into a conversation that the conservation and planning departments need to have internally to figure out how it's best approached before there's any proposed project before them. So, being said, any other discussion? Mr. Patrick, are you ready for updates?
Hold on. Well, just give me 2 seconds. Stop, you're making it harder. All right, go ahead.
Okay, ready? Pleasant Street Mills, DEP file number 151273. No action. Lathrop, 100 Bassett Brook Drive, DEP file number 151283, invasive plant management. They didn't have a plan for this year.
No.
Williston Northampton School off Taft Ave, DEP file number 151286. Any updates?
No.
City of Easthampton, Nashwauk Pond, DEP file number 151288, aquatic veg management.
Oh, you know what? We said Gary Gold's may come before the commission at this meeting.
Well,
to
he
discuss.
hasn't.
I suppose not, has he?
He has maybe note that as previously discussed, Mr. Golis is not here and may have future updates. Riverside Industries, we talked about this. I'm gonna hunt to the next meeting and see if there's a opportunity to.
Just skip a little bit, but I don't think there's any activity.
Oh, I think there was a SWIP inspection report.
Yeah, the inspection.
There should be one this week as well,
That's
because over the weekend and then again today, we've gotten a lot of rain.
But I haven't seen any.
Still dry.
Hey,
Yeah.
I can for you. No, it doesn't seem like anything is
Right.
happening, and that expires
Oh, come up.
July.
July.
So that would have to be, for the newer members, a request to extend an open order of conditions has to be received at least 30 days prior to its expiration for the commission to entertain it. So,
We did confirm that they had built at least
They
one
did,
of the, did
yeah.
they build both? I can't remember, of the replication areas,
I think they worked on one of them.
but the other one is still to be done.
Right.
mhm.
So,
They kind of, once they stopped, they just stopped pretty much
Everything.
everything.
right,
If they don't ask for an extension before the 30 days
Yeah.
to refile.
Yes.
and then where does that leave us with the mitigation that wasn't done? Does that become an enforcement issue?
It could become an
It would,
enforcement
right?
issue. If they come forward with a new notice of intent, basically to finish what hasn't been done, I would say it doesn't warrant enforcement, but
Sure.
I think if it expires and it's just left as is, then that's when the commission entertains discussion of
Yeah.
enforcement action to allow for the one-to-one.
Enforcement.
Is it something we should tell them about? Mark Reed, give him a heads up, or?
It's one of those things, we're not the keepers of their,
Right.
So,
their, I would imagine Mark Reed is aware of it since he's been doing the SWIP inspections. He is also, I think, responsible for the SWIP inspections at 155 Northampton Street, the Holistic Industries. Does anyone recall if anything came through for that last
believe
week?
so.
I think I
Okay.
saw something.
There were
about
definitely
also.
two sites, if those are the
Right.
only two
I
he
think
has,
those are the
that was
two.
it.
Right,
Mhm.
I think those are the two that he sent.
Okay, well, that's good. I mean, at least that part's being
Yeah.
taken care of. Yeah, I'm not
inclined to go chasing
Yeah,
that.
no problem.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I understand where it's coming from. I think that's a very gracious way of looking at it. But I don't want to be responsible, I don't want the commission to be responsible for everyone's
Mhm.
permits. James LeGrand, we talked about
Underwater.
underwater, clearly. City of Easthampton, White Brook, Broad Brook, maintenance dredging, I'm assuming no updates. Holistic Industries, 155 Northampton Street, DEP file number 151296. We received a SWIP inspection report last week. I'm assuming we'll get one this week, but we will see. One Industrial Loss LLC, 1 Ferry Street, tracks 1 and 2, DEP file numbers 151298 and 299. Don't even know if they've been reported. Correct. Easthampton.
You said last week that something looked different on site or something like that.
Thought there was an extra hole in a building.
It sounded like they haven't even changed ownership yet, so I must have perhaps imagined
Yeah.
it.
Or something caved in that looked different, but I,
Yeah,
you know.
I don't know.
Well, really, it's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, unless we have older photos, there's nothing to, no way to know.
And that's a part of the site that's not in our jurisdiction? Potentially? Outside buffer zone, outside floodplain?
Oh, right, because there's no riverfront.
Mhm.
Yeah, it probably isn't, you're right.
Yep, so nobody's looked into it since last week anyways. Yeah, okay, no updates.
Okay, Easthampton Park Solar 1 LLC, 232 Park Street, DP file number 151293.
I do have an update,
Oh, what's your update?
but as a member of living on Holly Circle and not part of the commission, I noticed work started today.
Work meaning,
Dropping off equipment and loud construction noises, banging, maybe chainsaws. They had a 18-wheeler dropping off like big equipment.
today.
Correct. It was one 18-wheeler next to the B&B.
Okay.
I did have a quick video of just the equipment.
You were really into taking videos of trucks today.
So you got a
Yeah.
flatbed there. So I just heard it all day.
Yeah, no,
We're going all the way
and
back into the site.
I think if we go back, we're not even sure that that order's been recorded,
Right,
which would be a violation right off the bat.
right.
Awesome way to
And-
start.
If Mallory hasn't been here, they certainly haven't had their 48-hour construction notice meeting.
Okay, duly noted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. River Valley Co-op, 228 Northampton Street, DP file number 151301. No.
update,
Also not sure if that order's been recorded. General business, meeting minutes, April 8th, 2019. Sent those around earlier.
Motion to
Approved.
approve the meeting minutes of April 8th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Clearly, we're not aware of any correspondence or urgent updates at this time. And for the record, the commission is in receipt of a notice of intent, Mass DEP file number 151297, filed by Easthampton Park Solar 1 LLC for solar project at Westview Terrace, map 165, lot 47, filed 4/10/2018, identified as date of filing by Mass DEP. Any further discussion?
No.
Motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.